Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement, guys. Pardon again for the short technical difficulties. What we're talking about is basically the Protoss's ability to transition between Dark Templar and Stargate much easier because of the cheaper gas cost of the Dark Shrine, and the ability that your new unit, the Oracle, can see cloaked units if you activate a certain ability on it. The next thing we talked about was about how Oracles can do devastating harassment damage. Shu, with just 2 Oracles, was able to kill Winter Fedora's entire worker line and a couple Stalkers that were there protecting him as well. So Oracle is absolutely amazing against an undefended base. Now, what's the problem is that this is a big problem in Wings of Liberty as well. Is if you go air, you got a bunch of Phoenixes, you're having fun, then your opponent nails you with a large army that has Colossi that can kill your ground army, and then some Stalkers to support it against the air army. One cool thing in Heart of the Swarm is that the Void Ray now is incredibly stronger than it used to be. So what we look at now, actually, let me actually write some things down. So you can make Void Rays, and you're much stronger against Stalkers than it used to be. In fact, let me actually, before we, oops, let me close this. Let me bring up the touchscreen and show you guys a couple new features of the Void Ray here. So the old Void Ray had the same life. We're not going to talk about the life, just its damage output against Stalkers and how effective it is against Stalkers. Well, so the old Void Ray, it dealt 10 damage with every shot to an armored target, right? Because it did 6 and then plus 4 to armored. So it was 10 damage, and then that was divided by an attack rate of 0.6. And that's going to equal, is that 16 or something like that? I think that's 16. Just say it's 16. It's a less, it's like 14 or something, but whatever. It's something. That number is something. Yeah, it's like, no, it's 16 point something. Anyways, we're just going to say 16. The next thing is that the new Void Ray, it does more base damage to armored. So if we jump back into Starcraft, we look at this Void Ray, all of a sudden we realize it does, or actually, sorry, it wasn't, my bad, I mixed up the numbers there. Apologies, people, it wasn't 10, it was 8. The old Void Ray was 8, I was mixing them. The new Void Ray, 8 divided by 0.6 is going to be like 13 or something like that, right? Yeah, 13. So the new Void Ray is 10, and that's going to be divided by 0.5, and that's going to equal 20. This is 13.3. So the new Void Ray basically does 1.5 times more damage output to armored without its activated ability. Now, you activate its ability, and all of a sudden, it's going to be 16 divided by 0.5. And that's going to equal 32 damage per second. So, which number is bigger, 13.3 or 32, right? It's pretty obviously the bigger one. So, we look at these new Void Rays, all of a sudden they're extremely effective against Stalkers. Now, yes, they're a little more food, but early on in the game that doesn't matter. And look at this army and think about it in Wings of Liberty terms, right? Wings of Liberty terms, this type of force here, 2 Stalkers in a Sentry, would easily beat the 1 Void Ray, right? And the ground units would be taken out by a Colossi. But look how fast the Stalker goes down. The other Stalkers weren't even shooting it. If you notice that, the other Stalkers are all shooting this Immortal in the front. But the Void Ray alone just absolutely can kill a Stalker instantly. For some reason, he was targeting the Immortal there. A little bit of a mistake there. But the idea is that Void Rays are much better for Stalkers than they used to be. Like, exponentially better. Now, people would say, I mean, the game's over here. The Void Ray will kill everything. And, of course, his opponent has no economy back at home. So Shu's going to win this game. Let me get back into the whiteboard here again. And people say, wait a minute. When your Void Ray was charged before, it dealt more than 8 damage, right? It was actually up to 16 damage. So even if it was 16, it's still less than 32. It'd be about 26, something like that, is where it was at. So even a charged Void Ray before dealt less damage than a new Void Ray does with its ability. But you know what the big difference is? This one, you don't have to sit there and wait until the battle's over before it gets activated, right? You have it right off the bat. It's a much stronger ability. It scales with upgrades better, although it still doesn't scale with upgrades as well as the standard unit does. but it's basically a much stronger damage output than the old Void Ray was. Well, the problem is as you get a bunch of Void Rays, you don't target units die too fast in large scale engagements for the charge to really be that useful, because you have to target the same unit for 5 seconds. Any unit you're attacking will probably be attacked by other friendly units, and it'll probably die before 5 seconds. So it's really hard to get that charge up in Wings of Liberty. Heart of the Swarm, you don't need it. Your Void Rays start with just amazing damage per second, much more useful versus Stalkers and Heart of the Swarm. Wraps it up for this new approach to PvP style using Dark Templars and Sky Toss units to succeed in Heart of the Swarm. We'll take a short break and be on with our next segment.